I've been slowly upgrading my setup piece by piece, and the ultimate goal? To have a completely optimized setup to solve real problems with tech, like how do you game when you have no time? Or how do you make your work setup more productive? I've been on a journey to upgrade everything. My backpack, my husband's desk setup, my laptop setup, and even my health. These are some of the tools that I ended up keeping. From a 27-inch 1440p monitor to a gaming mouse I didn't expect to love. Let's get into it. If you've been constantly complaining about switching tabs back and forth between programs on a single monitor, this might be the thing for you. It's something that might be a scary change, but it'll end up being a positive one. You see, I've been rocking a single monitor for many years. I've been afraid to add monitors since it seems like a great way to add in distractions. What if I started watching YouTube or Netflix videos on my second monitor? It would kill my productivity and focus. But lately, I've been constantly finding myself switching tabs or programs, and another monitor would easily solve the problem. So I did a bunch of research on what monitor setup would be best for work and productivity. And apparently, it's a vertical and a horizontal monitor dual setup, something I've never thought to try before. Now, if you're already doing this, let me know. Is it really that much better? Seeing setups like this has always looked so strange. There's no way that's better, right? So I figured I should just try it. What is there to lose by just giving it a shot? The internet, aka forums and Reddit, says that a good size for a main monitor is 27 inches with a 24-inch vertical monitor, so your eyes don't have to move up and down too much. Now, I'm currently using a 24-inch Acer monitor with a 240Hz refresh rate, so now all I need is a 27-inch monitor. But there's a problem. The monitor world is just as vast and endless as the keyboard world. There are so many options, so many features, and a ton of acronyms. There's QHD, OLED, LED, LCD, HD, IPS, and more. And after binge watching monitor videos and reading reviews on the perfect monitor for Mac, I decided to make a purchase on a Dell Ultrasharp 27-inch 4K monitor with a built-in dock for $650. It's a lot of money. Now, this is a huge investment, but the built-in dock would solve a lot of my cable management problems. And when it arrived, I was so excited. The picture quality was beautiful, and the 4K sizing made work seem like it would be so much better, and it had a bunch of ports on the back too. An Ethernet port for hardwired internet connection, as well as a ton of USB-C and USB-A ports. But there were two huge problems that ultimately became deal breakers. The first, my Mac made 4K look like it was made for ants. The text and the menu were so small that there wasn't anything I could do to just make it bigger. Now, this wouldn't be a problem on Windows. I could just scale everything up by 200% and get on with my merry way. But with my specific Mac, it wasn't that easy. Even with making the text sizes bigger, it was still uncomfortable to use. But there's another problem, an even bigger one that put the final nail in the coffin. It had a 60 Hz refresh rate. Yeah, for $650. Now, a 60 Hz refresh rate may not sound so bad since I'm using a phone with that, but when you're tracking your mouse all day long, 60 Hz feels so sluggish and so slow. So unfortunately, I had to make the hard call to return it and get hit with a 15% restocking fee. Grr, so painful. And at $650, 15% is no small amount. So now what? I'm back to square one, back to researching monitors and praying I won't waste any more money. This time, I would try another technique. No more binge watching monitor reviews. They clearly didn't help me the first time around. This time, I'm just going to type in the features that I want right into the Amazon search page and see what I get. Now, I've never had a 1440p monitor, but it seems like a great middle ground between 1080 and 4K, and 144 Hz is so much better than 60. Now, I can just read up on some reviews to make a good decision. There were a couple promising monitors, an LG UltraGear QHD 27-inch, an Acer Nitro, and a Dell, all around the same $200 price point. And after going back and forth a couple times, I ultimately went with the $199 Dell G2725D. It was $40 cheaper than the LG one, and it had all the same features. So it ended up being a spectacular, no-frills monitor. It was simple to set up, and I had zero issues. Sure, it doesn't have a dock, but my CalDigit TS3 Plus, which I mentioned in some other videos, does the job perfectly. And it has ports on the front for convenient access too. So the monitor has buttons on the back, which are easy to access. I prefer a joystick type controller, but it's it's not a big deal because you rarely change the settings anyways. And the bezel around it is pretty small except for some Dell branding at the bottom. So this monitor can go up to 180 Hz, but my MacBook maxes out at 144 Hz for some reason. I'm quite happy with it though. It's way better than 60. But another problem reared its ugly head. How would I mount two monitors properly and one vertically? So my 24-inch monitor already has a cheap Amazon Basics monitor arm, but the question is, do I get a dual monitor arm or another single arm? When researching arms, I wondered, do expensive monitor arms actually make a difference? Maybe this is something I can explore in another video. But since I had just spent $200 on a monitor, I opted for a budget-friendly Huano single monitor arm for $35, which ended up working fine. So the real question is, does the vertical dual monitor arm setup work better? Am I more productive now, or am I just distracted constantly? Turns out the opposite happened. Since your eyes have to make an effort to use the vertical monitor, I mostly use it for just work purposes, like reading scripts, sales pages, or transferring footage. Most of the time, it's just sitting there not being used, unless I have a purpose for it. So having the additional screen did make a lot of tasks faster, especially ones that required two different programs open at once on different screens. So even though I was worried I wouldn't like it, I honestly think I wouldn't go back to a single monitor, except if it was a massive ultra-wide OLED, but that's a test for another day. Speaking of OLED though, this next product is something that will help you enjoy gaming again, especially if you are super busy all the time. This piece of tech is going to help me game more. After having our first baby, who's now no longer a baby, who's a toddler, gaming has definitely taken the back seat. No, it's taken the trunk. And I've realized I sort of miss it. Now that my lifestyle is different, I prefer things that are easy to start and stop. Things like books and YouTube videos, but gaming isn't quite like that. It needs time, space, and uninterrupted attention. So I recently ordered a Steam Deck OLED to test it out. I know it's a relatively old device. Why not get a better handheld like the new Lenovo Legion Go or the ROG Ally? Well, I'm relatively new to handheld gaming, and the Steam Deck seems like a good balance between price and performance, and it's beginner friendly for newbies like me. I remember wanting one when they first launched, but it made no sense because we had PCs, good setups, and unlimited time. But now a Steam Deck sort of makes sense. So when it first arrived, I was shocked by how lightweight and ergonomic it was, and about how huge the screen actually is. The 7.4-inch display looks a lot bigger in person. Now, I haven't watched many videos on handheld gaming devices, but dang, I was pretty impressed. It even came in a hardcore carrying case, like the ones you see for premium keyboards. Nice accessories are great and all, but what about the gaming experience? So I started off with Hogwarts Legacy, a game I've been wanting to play for a long time, for years now, but I just never got around to it. The graphics, they're pretty amazing. Compared to my 1080p monitor, this thing was vibrant and bright. And after a couple of short gaming sessions, I started to see a place for the Steam Deck in my life. Maybe not ultra competitive shooter games, but slower games where there's a story and an adventure, like old Final Fantasy games. But the thing isn't perfect either. It has a short battery life and it does get pretty warm at times, but it adds convenience, opportunities to pick it up and put it down quickly, and the suspend button lets you pause without having to find a legitimate save spot. You don't have to keep playing until the game saves. You just press the thing and it saves where you're at. So now I'm making progress on my games, 15 to 20 minutes at a time. It's slow, but it's better than nothing at all, and gaming feels possible again. I'm pretty excited to play some more games now, so if you have any recommendations, let me know down below. So gaming hasn't been the only thing I've been excited about. There's this hobby that's been on my mind for months and months and months now, and one might even call it an obsession. But I finally curbed it recently. If you're tired of charging your smartwatch every single day, then this next product is for you, because I used to be in your exact position and I was sick of it. What's the point of a watch if it constantly needs upkeep? So I got into a dangerous rabbit hole, analog watches, also known as watches, and I've been into them since last fall. And I know they're not technically tech, but there is some really amazing technology in them, even if it doesn't require electricity. It started off with a simple battery replacement on an old watch I got as a gift, but it quickly became something more when I discovered you could build automatic watches with parts from AliExpress for just $100 pre-tariffs. works, I suppose. So this is the first watch I ever built. I picked the dial, the case, the hands, and I even put everything together myself. It was partly a hobby, possibly it was an experience, but when I finished it, I didn't know that it would be something that I loved. So I reached out to a couple of watch brands and got sent a Summiteer by Traska, a small micro brand that makes limited runs on watches. So this is the watch, and it might be the watch that got me away from building watches for good. If you put this watch and the watch I built side by side, the quality is strikingly different. I've been wearing the Traska one for just as long as the one I built, and there are 0 scratches. Okay, there's one, but I don't know where it is. There's one nick somewhere on here, and almost every little detail is better, except one big thing that keeps annoying me. The case has more details in the design, where it's polished versus brushed. The dial is clean with raised indices, but the biggest difference is the bracelet. The Traska watch is lightweight, flexible, and it has a nice micro adjust too. So a micro adjust lets you change the size of the bracelet by just a couple of millimeters at a time, which is perfect for days when it's hot, where your forearms swell up a bit more. But despite being such a great watch, I actually had some problems with it. The biggest downside is how slippery it is because of the stainless steel back on the watch case. I constantly find it slipping down my wrists when I'm walking or standing, and it's quite annoying. And with an automatic movement, I either have to wind it or wear it consistently, or else it stops working, especially over the weekend when I don't wear it much. So I was gonna buy their daily commuter in 34 millimeters, but I didn't want to worry about the date being accurate too. With the summers being so hot here, I found that I wasn't really wearing watches as often, so adjusting the time for me was enough. So that's when I realized that I could have a watch and not worry about the automatic side by getting a quartz watch. Now I know, quartz watches, that's like downgrading to a membrane keyboard, but hear me out. A quartz watch uses a battery, and it doesn't require you to wear it or wind it to work. It just works until it runs out of battery, of course, but the battery could last you years. So when we moved into the office, I knew I wanted to get a watch to commemorate the achievement. The watch I ended up with is German made with a super simple and minimalistic design called Bauhaus, something like that. And this is the Junghans Max Bill Damen, a medium-sized ultra-thin quartz watch with a date window. It's a very fitting watch for the office, with the biggest downside being that the smallest hole on it is just a tad too big for me. And the design isn't for everyone, but if you value simplicity, it seriously nails that aspect. Now I cycle through about 3 watches: the Garmin for my workouts, the Traska for those times where I worry my watch might get dirty or scratched, plus it has 100 meters of water resistance, and I wear this one, the Max Bill in the office, and that's it. I thought I would want more, but it feels very complete, like a watch for every situation. And with this, I think I can finally say that I'm stepping away from watches. Goodbye, watch rabbit hole. You were good to me. Seriously though. Goodbye, I don't need to spend any more money. So speaking of feeling complete, there's another tech upgrade I made recently that seriously changed the way I work at my desk setup. I've been using the Logitech MX Master 3 for almost 5 years now, and in that time, I've owned 3 of them. I love it. It has an infinite scroll wheel that speeds up scrolling web pages a ton, and a large hump for a more ergonomic hand position for long work sessions, plus the battery life lasts several months at a time before having to charge it again. But there's a big problem. It's super heavy at 144 grams compared to something like a G Pro Superlight at 60 grams, and it's sluggish. Unlike other mice out there, the MX Master 3 is designed for productivity instead of gaming, which means Logitech didn't give 2 hoots about the weight or the polling rate. But what if there was a perfect mouse that could do both perfectly? So I went off on a journey to find the best mouse that could do it both. So off I went. First was the Micro Center, the land of gaming peripherals. There were a limited number of options with the specific features I truly wanted: an infinite scroll wheel and an ergonomic hump with a thumb rest. That left me with 2 options: a Logitech G502X Plus, really long name, wow, and a Razer Basilisk V3. Seriously though, when did mice get so expensive? These are both over $150 each. The G502X Plus has a nice look to it with a similar shape to the MX Master 3, but it's a tad more uncomfortable since I have to point my palms down more. But still, this mouse was way too heavy, 106 grams. Plus, it felt bloated with a ton of RGB and extra buttons. But there was one thing that made me cringe every time I used it, and that was the loud clicks and scroll wheel. This mouse has Logitech's newest and greatest, a hybrid optical mechanical switch, and it sounds cool in theory, but It's head-splittingly sharp and loud, so it was a definite no for me. So I moved on to the cleaner looking Razer Basilisk V3, and already I'm a little hesitant because you have to use Razer Synapse and I hate downloading bloated software, but despite that, the mouse is really nice. It has quieter clicks, an infinite scroll wheel, and a nice grippy texture. It also has 35,000 DPI, which is way overkill for what I'm using it for, and at $160, I think I'd have to pass. Which leads me to my next acquisition, a mouse from a company I didn't expect to make mice. It wasn't a big gaming brand like Logitech or Corsair, but a keyboard brand that we all know well, Keychron. They've surprisingly come up with a productivity mice lineup that appears promising. There's various shapes and sizes, such as the G502X shaped M7 mouse or the Mini M4, but what I'm looking for is the M6, which has similar features to the MX Master 3. It comes in at $50 and 2 colors, black or white, and gives you 2 polling rate options. Now, if you're an intense gamer and really want to push the limits of your mouse, then you can upgrade to the 4000 Hz polling rate for $70. If not, the 1000 Hz polling rate will work for most people. So they've nailed the shape for productivity and the features for gaming, but can it be the one mouse to rule them all? The weight comes in at 78 grams, making it the lightest mouse out of all the options we've looked at so far. So it's not bad. The shape is almost there, but I think the MX Master 3 has more of a hump, or like a wider hump. And the biggest problem I've had with it is the smooth finish. It gets dirty fast and it's a bit slippery to use. The build quality is definitely cheaper than the previous mice, but it makes up for it in terms of price. And you can't compare mice without talking about battery life. After all, the biggest reason to use the MX Master 3 is the crazy battery life. So the battery on the M6 definitely isn't as good, but it makes up for it by being usable while charging with a wired mode. That's something the MX Master 3 has never been able to do. So while the M6 isn't perfect, it does strike a good balance between gaming and productivity compared to everything else. So for now, I think it's my end game mouse. That's so hypocritical. It just means I'll find something better someday. Endgame does not exist, people. Never. So if you've solved any of your life problems with tech, let me know and I'll check it out. Here's some other products that have changed my life in these videos here, and I'll see you later. Bye!